welcome to episode 9. This episode is all going to be about positive self-talk and how to shift your self-talk from being negative to positive. One thing that I see most successful people doing, especially athletes, is how they speak to themselves. We're just off the back of the Olympics, and during those Olympics there was so many clips on social media where you saw the athletes kind of speaking to themselves pre-event, really hyping themselves up. And for me, I found this super motivating. And I think for any client, especially someone that has been trying to kind of reach their goal for a long time, we can be so hard on ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves, the way we see the world. This all is kind of holding us back. I'm going to do an episode later down the line about identity and how that when we anchor our beliefs with our identity, this could be one of the most difficult things to overcome when you really want to change. Positive self-talk is a habit. It's just like anything else. Positive self-talk is something that most athletes and successful people didn't have, but they practiced the habit. And then they got better and better and better at talking to themselves in a way that was conducive to success. It's not like pretending that everything is perfect. It's not ignoring reality. A lot of these athletes are under super stress. They've trained 4 years to get to the Olympics. And when they get there, they know the pressure. They know what's on the line. They're not trying to speak to themselves to kind of protect themselves. It's a mechanism that they have to help them get into that flow state that you see athletes get into. A big thing with athletes, you see time and time again, that they have something to trigger that flow state. And once they get into that state, they're in the zone. There's no stopping them. Yes, they all don't win, but if you get to the finals in any Olympic event, you are badass. You are one of the best in the world at that sport. And how many athletes could you see talking to themselves in a way to hype them up, to motivate them, to get them in the zone? It's something that they have been practicing just as much as the event itself. How do we develop the habit of creating positive self-talk? It starts with awareness, okay? You need to have the awareness of how am I speaking to myself. So a big thing with most clients is that we say to ourselves, we're going to eat a certain way. Okay, so we're going to start a diet, or we're going to eliminate, say, for example, processed foods, or we're not going to order takeaway. And then later that day, we end up ordering food, or we eat the food that we said we're not going to have. Now, there's a lot of psychology around this, but I'm just speaking about self-talk. What can happen to a lot of people is that they get that food, they eat that thing or whatever it might be, and then the talk starts. The shame, the guilt, that harsh negative self-talk begins. If you want to change that, we need to have the awareness around how we're speaking to ourselves and what effect that has on us. Look, one thing I would say to a client, if the guilt, the shame, or just that way of speaking to yourself doesn't have any benefits, then why are we doing it? You know, sometimes the emotions that come with our actions are needed because those emotions are the driving force to stop us doing that again, right? But if you're speaking to yourself, being overly harsh on yourself, overly negative, and you're not actually getting any benefit from it, then we really need to have the awareness to say to ourselves, what is this doing for me? If it's not doing anything good, then we at least know, okay, I have the awareness that I'm talking to myself in a very negative way or whatever it might be, and I want to change it to a more healthy habit that's going to help me get to where I want to be. So here is 3 strategies that I used to help me shift my perspective, because I am a bit of a perfectionist, and then the shadow to being a perfectionist is feeling not good enough. So anything that I do, I want it to be the absolute best, because underneath that in myself, I feel there's an underlying feeling within me that I'm not good enough. So whether that be the work that I produce or something that I do in the gym or in my life, I really want to make sure it's the best technique, best post I can make, best post I can put on social media. And over years, through years of counseling and different kind of techniques, I've really found 3 strategies to help me shift that constant negative self-talk to something that's, what I would say nowadays, much more healthy, much more conducive to success. The first strategy is a strategy that my counselor called catch and challenge. So you have to get better at awareness. when we get better awareness, we catch ourselves a lot quicker, okay? So when that negative self-talk begins, we can catch it. And when you catch it, you want to stop it, and then you challenge it. So here's an example. Just like I said, I'm a perfectionist. So underneath that, there's a feeling of not being good enough. Let's say I am creating a post on social media. I would over analyze and be over critical on simple design elements or me speaking to the camera that would actually be holding me back. So I would watch myself so I could be watching myself on a video that I recorded, and I don't like the way I speak. I don't like my body language. I don't know. I don't look. I don't. I don't like how I look. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm not posting that. I'll do it again. I'll record it again and again and again and again. And then I probably still wouldn't post it. This has happened to me for the longest time. Okay. So what I do now is I catch myself once I start over analyzing my videos. I challenge it by saying to myself, how does a pro become a pro? Every professional was once an amateur. That's the expression that I use. So when I'm creating content, I'm just an amateur. I'm new to this game. You know, I'm very, very new to it. If I want to get really good at creating content, I better put in those reps. I better put in the hard miles. And I got to start with a beginner's mindset. I'm not going to like my delivery. I'm not going to like the way I am on camera at the very beginning, because I'm still trying to evolve into becoming that person who I am in here. Yes, I might not be good enough now, but if I don't put the work in now, I'm never going to be where I want to be. That's just how I catch and challenge myself. Once I start thinking that way, that negative self-talk stops straight away. The second strategy is reframing your language. Now, this might sound a bit silly, but I promise it works. Only speak to yourself in the way that you'd speak to a child. Again, working with a counselor, this is something that we went through, that there's so often that you be overly harsh and the words are how you would say it to yourself. You would never say that to, for example, a client or a child. So don't speak to yourself in a way that you'd speak to other people, specifically children, because too often we forget that we're trying to learn. In life, a lot of us are winging it. We don't have it all figured out, but we pretend we have it all figured out. And if you can just take this beginner's mindset, if you can just take on the fact that maybe I don't know enough, maybe I'm not good enough, and if a child was doing something, you're not going to be, well, I hope you wouldn't be bashing the child because it didn't do something correct or it could have done better. You're going to speak in a way that's going to help that child learn, grow, and evolve. And if you can look at yourself that way too, that's really going to help you. That, again, this is from personal experience. Now, I'm going to be honest, not all the time I speak to myself like I'm a child, but I have the awareness and I catch myself, and then I be very mindful that, hey, how are you speaking to yourself? What language am I using? And it really does help. The last strategy, a lot of us are doing this already, but some of us find it impossible, and that is daily gratitude. So last night I went running. I went on a 10K run, but before I went running, my back was killing me. My lower back was killing me and my right knee. I was in the gym earlier that day and I was training back, and just tension is built up. So I was really on the fence of like, will I go for a run? Will I do 10K? Or maybe I do 5K. Maybe I don't run today. Maybe I run tomorrow. And it's just that kind of self-talk, okay? You know, too often you get complacent and be like, oh, well, I already went to the gym today. So don't, maybe leave the run till tomorrow, all right? But I was like, no, it's in the plan. I got to do a double day today. So I done some stretching. I loosened it out, felt a lot better. Now, when I was running, I felt great. Okay, it was just one of those freak runs where when I started running, I was like, lovely, there's no pain in my knee and my back is all good. I was like, yes. Because to be honest, I thought once I start running, I'm going to be feeling this for the whole fucking hour. But that wasn't the case. Delighted. And then once I didn't feel the pain, I started practicing gratitude. Oh, I don't give a shit how long this run takes. If it takes 2 hours, I don't care. I'm feeling really good now. Once my knee doesn't go, once my back holds up, I'm over the moon. And then I just start thinking more in that whole gratitude. Oh, stop. Imagine I couldn't run. Imagine I couldn't walk. There's so many people that can't do this. And honestly, this is just start flowing and flowing. And why did it start flowing is because every single morning I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. It's a practice. It's a habit. It was awkward. It was difficult. It's challenging to practice gratitude every day. And at the start, it feels all hokey pokey, hurry furry, fake. Do it for 30 days and get back to me. I promise you. Practice gratitude every morning for 30 days. And after 30 days, the penny drops. You start to realize there's actually something more powerful in the gratitude. And with the tips and gratitude, okay, so if you just say it to yourself, that's like the lowest form of energy, okay, because it's just a thought. You're thinking grateful things. If you say it to someone, even out loud, but if you speak it, speaking sound has a vibration, and that's a higher form of energy. So when you're speaking in language that's very grateful, your vibe, your frequency can elevate. Okay, this is proven. Okay, and then also if you can't speak it, you can write it. Okay, because the hand is powerful as well, and there's like a connection between that the palm and your heart, and there's just like energetic field. More videos later. But if you can't speak it out, write it down in a journal. That's also that kind of second elevation of gratitude. And then the third, the highest form of energy in the spiritual sense is action. So like, for example, would be a simple way would be speaking to your partner, like saying to your girlfriend or your wife, I'm grateful for the meal that you cooked last night. I'm grateful to share the bed with you and wake up beside someone that I love and care for. And then it could be, I'm very grateful to have this cup of coffee with you in the morning and that we can share gratitude. Then you ask them, can you share three things that you're grateful for with me? Because that is you acting and practicing a gratitude practice, right? So the acting is the highest form. It goes from a thought to the spoken word or the written word to action. They are the three kind of stages of energetic fields, you know. So coming back to me and my own kind of personal experience, because honestly, being a perfectionist is draining. Okay, you have so many negative beliefs. Honestly, it's ridiculous. When I started off personal training, I was like, how is anyone going to pay me to coach them? You know, it's just like you get caught up in this cycle. You don't know enough. Maybe I need to study more. Maybe I need to only work with this type of person, blah blah blah. And when negative self-talk really seeps in is when you have low confidence. Okay, when I had low confidence when I'm starting something new, like content creation, or when I first started being a coach, I had low confidence because I don't have the experience and I don't feel that I really know what I'm doing because I'm still the beginner, right? And that's when this self-negative talk really kicks in. So for you, if you're starting off on your health and fitness journey, please take heed to what I'm saying. I've been there, I've done it. When you start talking more positive to yourself, you will start to change how the brain communicates. I'm not half as bad as what I used to be. Honest to God. Go back, I don't know, 7 years ago, I would not be on this camera. Like, I'd just be like, no, no, no. I wouldn't be able to stop the over perfectionist kicking in and absolutely tearing apart everything. Nowadays, it's not perfect, but we're getting there. Every video, we get a little better. You know, keep that beginner's mindset. I actually have an expression now to really help me, okay? It's called never not good enough, okay? Never not good enough. That's what I always say to myself. I'm never not good enough because the shadow of that perfectionist is not being good enough. I'm not good enough to be lean. I'm not good enough to be a coach. I'm not good enough, blah, blah, blah. So now I change that and I have an anti-weakness, anti-shadow essentially. Put the light onto it, and that is put the word not good enough. Like not sorry, I got that all wrong. It's never not good enough. So that's what I was meant to that's what I meant to say there. Never not good enough. That puts the light onto that shadow because I'm always good enough. I don't need to do jack shit. I am good enough. I am worthy. And I know this is kind of going off topic a little bit, but essentially for a lot of people, we have shadows, we have these core wounds, and if we don't get into those, other things manifest from that, such as being a perfectionist, such as not putting your work out to the world, such as never starting a fucking podcast. Let's get into how do you do this. First of all, when you have low confidence and when you start doing something that you're new at, that's when the negative self-talk can take over, okay? If you know you're an expert at, say, for example, you're an accountant and you're an expert at this kind of profit and loss thing, there's not going to be a lot of self-negative talk because you know I'm in my zone of excellence, okay? But when you start to say lose body fat and you're like, what diet do I do? How do I exercise? I've never squatted in my life. These moments is when we need to implement what I just spoke about. This is when you need to catch yourself and need to challenge. What am I talking about here? I'm new to this. How am I meant to be great at squats? Is there a different way I can squat without the barbell so that I can develop the movement pattern, that skill acquisition? And this is where a good coach comes in. You should never be overreaching your capacity, your skill, so that too often in gyms I see people doing just movements they have no business doing because they don't have the skill acquisition. Back onto self-talk. Even if you're trying something super hard like a deadlift or a squat or a bench press, okay, if you've never done these movements before, they're very, very difficult, and you need to acquire the skill before you get strong. You need to get good at the movement before you even think about adding weight on, doing extra reps, doing drop sets, making it more intense, okay? So these things, when we're shit at, when we're new at, when we don't have any confidence in, like, how do I cook food? I've never cooked roast chicken before. The first time you cook a full roast chicken, I bet you it's not even that nice. Okay? Every dish that you make, you're going to need to make it 3 or 5 times before you're like, that's on the money. I would never cook food for someone that I didn't cook before at least 5 times, because I'm like, okay, I never cooked duck before. There's no chance of making duck for you because it's probably not going to be that good. I'm going to stick with like the basics, something that I've done lots of times that I know I can replicate this to a T and I like it. So hopefully you just like it. If you practice gratitude, if you have the mindset of I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to even have this time, energy and space to lose weight, your self-talk's going to change. If you practice gratitude, now I'm cooking, I haven't cooked for years, then your attitude changes. It's all about speaking to yourself in a certain way. When you implement this into your life, it's trying to use those 3 strategies that I spoke about. And listen to me, I'll be honest with you. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take a good bit of work on yourself. You might need to dig into what is the core wound. Why do I have this negative self-talk? And you might need to consult with a professional, a counselor, a psychiatrist, someone to kind of help and guide you into your wound and like really kind of unravel these kind of layers of protection that we put on ourselves so that you can actually really understand what makes you tick this certain way. Too often unqualified people are willing to kind of drop you into your wound. Oh, this is the reason why you're this way. Bam. And then they don't have any care package of how to get out of that in a responsible way where you can take actionable steps to help you kind of unravel it in a bigger way. A lot of plant medicine does this. It kind of projects you into this kind of different field, whole different mindset. Your mind is working in ways that it never worked before. Then the trip ends and you're like, whoa, what was all that? Yes, you have the afterglow, and you have, a different perspective a lot of the time. But if you're working on stuff that's deep, you need to have someone that's going to help you guide you in and out. So to wrap this up, it's all about catching and challenging. Okay. The other strategies, like I said, speak to yourself in a kind way, a way which you would speak to a child. And then lastly, it's practicing gratitude. Okay. Trying to be more grateful for the opportunity to have this challenge. Confidence is the key factor here. Okay. When you have low confidence, this is when the self-negative talk ramps up, and it's going to take time. All right. If you have negative self-talk all the time, you're not going to take the risks. You're not going to push yourself into areas where you need to go, but you won't go because the way you speak to yourself is so shitty. We have to try to have this growth mindset. And the enemy of a growth mindset is negative self-talk. Okay. Tony Robbins was not the motivational speaker when he started out. Nobody knew who Tony Robbins was. Tony Robbins became Tony Robbins through doing the reps, hours and hours and hours of motivational content where people were laughing at him saying, who do you think you are? You think you're this motivational guy? But guess what? His self-talk was not negative. He kept going, he kept pushing, he kept learning, evolving and growing. And now Tony Robbins is like the motivational guru. We have to try to have a more successful, positive self-talk to help us grow in the areas that we need to grow in to reach our goal. Bodyful listeners are not quitters, so well done on listening to this episode. I hope you found it helpful, and I'm looking forward to catching you in the next one.